Okay, guys, today we're going to talk about how to lose money in real estate. And I've only lost money on two deals up to this point, but I believe there's a third that's currently listed that I'm also going to lose money on. Worst case scenario or best case scenario, I just about break even. So I'm going to include this in these three examples. And again, I'm not just going to make this entertainment. I want to pull a couple of morals out of each of them, lessons learned, so that you guys can make sure you don't do the same. So let's start with D Street. D Street is this lot right in front of me, and just sold it, I want to say last Friday for $12,000. Bought it at $10,000. And it really comes down to not having fully done our due diligence on access. So for anyone that's seen some of our other videos, some of my other videos, paper plat versus what is there in reality is a common pitfall. And so this is a highly desirable neighborhood in Brunswick County. They're mobile homes, but mobile homes are very in demand down there, and this whole area is zoned for mobile. So we were marketing it heavily, but it turns out that this specific lot does not, excuse me, lot, this specific road does not exist. The legal easement is there, which is good. The paper plat is in place as we're looking, but this road does not exist. There's no physical access. And when we were doing due diligence on this, my acquisition manager at the time saw that one of these other ones on the same street was listed at, I want to say 30. It was getting a ton of traction. So we knew there was potential issues with access, but we quickly went and got it under contract at 10 anyways, thinking, oh, we'll figure it out. It won't matter. Well, we were definitely wrong. And long story short, it sat and sat and sat, and we had to keep lowering it, and ultimately sold at 12 with closing costs and everything. And then closing costs on the front end lost about $900. So not that bad, not a big deal. But I think the three things that I wanted to drive home here are access always needs figured out, both legal access and physical. Now, watch out. I've seen this go both ways where sometimes there's physical access to a property and nobody complains, but there's no deeded legal access. So when you're having your title commitment done, you should be able to scroll down, see the deed, and see the plat, and there needs to be legal access recorded to the property. So this one did have that. But then on the flip side, I've also seen where there is legal access recorded on the deed, but nobody knows. And that was 50 years ago. And you'd have to go knock on the neighbor's door and tell them, hey, sorry, we're going to put a driveway right through your land, and I do have the right to do it. Well, even if you have that legal access, that conversation probably isn't going to go so well. So both of those problems need solved before closing on land, in my opinion. Moreover, watch out for on market comps. Now, if you're in a market where there's nothing available and there's huge demand, you can give a little more weight to the on market comps, the few on market comps. I have a few markets I'm in right now like that, but generally speaking, don't give much attention to what's listed on market like we did. Make sure you're going off of sold comps that are identical. And then finally, just being careful when you're excited. I remember when we bought this, business was going very, very well. We had a great month. And so it was easier to just tell her, just go buy it. We'll figure it out. I'm sure it'll sell. And of course, that was a mistake. That was a mistake. So try and stay stoic in your due diligence and don't make the same mistake I did with this one and lose money. So that is number one. Number two, this one just expired, so my realtor's re-upping it because we have not sold this yet. And I expect to lose a couple bucks on it, maybe break even, but it's still important. This is in Rio Rancho. Haven't done a ton of business in New Mexico. I've had a few good deals, but the problem with this one is really, really simple. It's the lot right here, or right here. I forget exactly. It's on one side. It's not in this giant arroyo. The land itself is fine. He did walk it, the realtor, in person, so we know that's not a problem. But what is a problem is the power line ends right here and right here. And the cost to bring it, that extra, I don't know, several hundred yards, because this is a decent, these are decent side pieces, is 27,000, I think, based on the quote. And so we thought it would sell at 50. We bought it at 25. Well, what do you know? Those 50K comps had power to them. And so we'll probably end up selling it at 25, which is what we bought it at. So it's listed at 29.9. There's quite a few people looking at it now that we've dropped it that low. We'll see. But all that to say, we didn't follow the due diligence checklist to the T. You need to treat it like a flight checklist, right? Where the stewardesses don't take off until every box has been checked, because the consequence of a mistake in the context of flying is everybody potentially dying. So it's very serious. So they never ever vary from their flight checklist, even with things that seem obvious. Treat your due diligence the same way. Now, my acquisition manager made this mistake. So what's the lesson for me? Well, I had trained him, I had taught him, and he still was not thorough. So my mistake, the way that I'm accountable or responsible here, is I should have let him go sooner. And so that really drove home the lesson of hire slowly, fire quickly, because there were several of these. Thankfully, the others we exited, just with small profits. This will be the only one that we'll likely lose money on, and it's been sitting for a long time. So I have a bunch of cash sitting in this, 25,700 or something like that. But it happens. So that's number two. Finally, 186 Greenway Lane. This is the only build I've lost money on. I think I lost $7,000. I don't have it on the spreadsheet, which we'll look at shortly, because I was not thrilled, and so I didn't even finish quantifying the numbers, because I was just, screw it, we're done. This is over. Move on. So this is the same plan I've built many times. It's not in the house plan. It's a nice plan. It's desirable in this market. And there were several factors that came together to cause me to lose money on this build. The first of which, I hate managing people, and so I get lazy in that regard. And my contractor was not on top of getting this built quickly, so it took far too long, and of course accrued more and more interest. And he was not on top of his subs, so they charged far more than the initial bids. Price got overinflated, and again, I didn't want to deal with it. My fault, totally my fault. And so just the cost to build got out of control. And number two, there was just when I bought this lot, it was summer of 2022. Things were going very, very well. And I thought, screw it, I'll just buy the lot that's on market. I didn't wait for a good lead to come in from our direct to seller marketing. I overpaid for the land. I was too much optimism, right? I heard a quote years ago, how much optimism is factored into the price. And when I bought this land and approached this build, there was too much optimism factored into my thinking. And so overpaid for the land, didn't deal with the contractor, blah, 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 all that. So I lost money. And finally, if anyone has watched the video on 730 East Cabaret, I said, well, if you're constantly participating in the market, you're going to get lucky from time to time and have great bull runs where you get to make a lot, right? And the reverse is true, where if you're always participating, you're going to have bad timing from time to time. And this is an example of this. This drove me nuts. I sold this June of last year. I looked in July, and there was not a single comparable new build under, I want to say, 379. And this was like I was the last person to sell at a discount. Inventory got eaten up, and then suddenly these started selling higher. So they sold after this one. There was a bunch at like 369, 375, very, very comparable. So if I had held out an extra month, I could have at least broken even. So anyways, there was just bad timing. And if you're constantly participating, that's going to happen from time to time. So to summarize, with all three of these deals, don't buy and make decisions when you're excited. If you're in a state of optimism, of excitement, you need to be stoic and prudent when you're running your numbers and making purchase decisions. Number two, watch out for pieces of land where both sides of the access, both physical and legal, are solved. Solve that before you close. Be wary of on-market comps unless there's massive demand and little to no supply. On-market comps are very much secondary to recent solds. Definitely hire slowly, fire quickly. Don't let problems with employees linger. Follow your SOPs to a T and never vary. Deal with your contractor if there's problems. And then ultimately, just more lesson of market come and they go and up and down. But if you're continually participating, you're going to get kicked in the teeth from time to time, and you're going to get deals that go better from time to time. So that last one is more just an acknowledgement as opposed to a change in behavior, where really, to the overarching point, it's okay to occasionally lose money. I mean, let's say I do lose money on that Rio Rancho parcel. That would mean I've lost money on 3 deals out of like 250. I don't know how many I'm at total between rentals, new construction, and land flips, but it's well over 200. So that's fine. And if you're participating constantly, there's going to be mess ups. So learn what you can from my mistakes here to minimize your mess ups, and go out there and do some deals.